This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. We are reflecting on arrivals and departures on this Monday, May 6th, 2024. We had scheduled to interview with Siam Pasarly, who is the author of Unbreakable, a wonderful book that uh, describes his escape from Afghanistan on the last plane from Kabul International Airport. However, we don't have Siam with us today because he had to attend to a family emergency. But we do have with us his very, very good friend, as a matter of fact, his best friend, Robert Farrell. And Robert has been working with CM on many, many projects, but uh, it is an interesting discussion about how Robert came to know CM when CM came to the United States with nothing. Welcome to WZRD. Robert, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Very, very well. Well, we hope that uh, CM's family member will be okay. And best wishes to him and his family. He's been through so much. So, first, his book is Unbreakable, and it describes, as we mentioned earlier, about his escape from Afghanistan, all the so many twists and turns, and so many dangers that he faced, and there was a luck was on his side, but there was it was very moving. Robert, how did you come to know CM? How did you meet him?
We met at a writer's meetup.
Mm,
I had written a book previously or co-authored a book called The Presidential Lessons with a fellow named Todd Spear. And I am Siam and I came to Chicago at around the same time 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago,
mhm.
but I'm from San Diego. And I was, as I said, I had finished one book and I was working on another one. I got stuck and someone suggested I go to a writer's meetup and I did, and that's where I met Siam.
Writers Meetup, is that meetup.com or is it just a meetup as a general term, as a meeting?
No, a meetup is an actual physical meeting
Mhm.
where you meet with a group of people who have a similar interest. So you could have a stamp collector's meetup or a comic
Mhm.
book collector's meetup or a hiking meetup.
Uh-huh.
And this was a writer's meetup. It
Mhm.
was at a restaurant in downtown Chicago, and that's where we met.
Mm. But
Yeah.
how did you hit it off? Was he describing his situation? Was he also having writer's block as well?
He was not, but he had written two books. I'll give you a little background on his story. As you mentioned,
Yes.
he escaped from Afghanistan during the fall of Afghanistan when the United States pulled out of that country, and he escaped on an airplane with thousands of other refugees. He was in he was placed along with thousands of other people in Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, where he and everyone else was being vetted to make sure they were safe and good people, etc.
Hmm.
And he kept himself busy. You mentioned that he got lucky, and definitely there was some luck on his side. But Siam is one of the, if not the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. And while he was in Fort McCoy, he did a lot of things. He interpreted, he taught classes, he helped the refugees with different issues, he organized things, and he wrote two books. So when his vetting process was finished, he went to Chicago and he got work, but he worked on these books, but he felt like he needed an editor. And so when he came to this writers meetup, he and I took a liking to each other. We took each other's phone numbers, and he asked during the writers' meetup if I would look at his books. I'm a former teacher, so I'm used to looking at people's work and their
Mhm.
writing. So I thought, sure, I'll be happy to do it. And then I didn't hear from him for quite a while, but I didn't really think anything of it. And then about 4 months later, he called me one day or said, "Hey, can I come over?" And he did, and he presented one of his books. It was a lot bigger than I thought it would be. It was about a 250-page manuscript.
Mhm.
And so we worked on that, and it became two books, one of which is called Be Your Own Boss.
Mhm.
And then the other one is called Create Your Own Empire. That was one book, but we made it into two books.
Mhm.
And I co-authored Be Your Own Boss with him. But then he had the third book, second or third book, depending on how you're counting it, and that was his story about his leaving Afghanistan.
You mean
And I,
Unbreakable? Mhm.
yes.
I,
So
no, go
yeah,
ahead.
so I read that, I offered suggestions, and it was under another title, but then it became Unbreakable eventually.
Mhm. There were other books also called Unbreakable, but of course the term the word fits his situation very exactly. Did you ever suggest that did you the two of you ever discuss another name because there were other books with the same name?
I did, but the people who were working with this book, they decided that they liked that title better.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm not sure if I should tell you what the title I had.
Yes, please
Um,
do.
so Siam has this thing he does where he'll say, "Good to see me" or "Nice to see me."
Hmm.
It's a very endearing phrase, and it was actually the turning point when he was in the airport in Kabul for 5 days, by the way, with thousands of other people. He went up to a Marine and said, "Nice to see me." And he's very cheerful. He's very warm personality, very engaging. And that created this mini relationship with this Marine where the Marine helped him based on just that interaction. So Siam says this to me all the time. Good to see me. Nice to see me. And it's really, I like that phrase. I love it actually.
I wanted to ask him actually, do you know if that's the exact translation from his language? What's
Pashto.
punctual?
Pashto.
Pashto. Yes.
Yes.
And or is it he deliberately twisted it around so that he could befriend the Marine?
It's, as I said, just a way of kind of helping people put their guard down. When you say nice to see me, you have to think about it a second. And he says it with so much warmth and humor that you can't help but enjoy it.
Mhm. Yeah, it was yeah, yeah, I read that part that it was very moving as well as many of the other parts of the book. He really had to think on his feet in order to survive, and he was lucky that some people helped him, and he, despite his the dire circumstances, he helped others as well. Even his
Yeah.
sister-in-law helped two people, probably saved those two people's lives when they tried to take Siam's place in to board the plane.
Yeah, Siam is a very selfless individual. I've known him a little over 2 years now, and he's really honestly, and I'm not just saying this, he's one of the most amazing people I've ever met. And he's a very good person. He's a very kind person, but he's also a very strong person. He knows what he wants out of life, and he's probably, if not, he's probably the hardest working person I've ever met.
Hmm. I believe that. Did he tell you any stories about Afghanistan that are not in the book?
Well, a lot of it is in the book, but that's where he was raised. He was actually in Afghanistan at the time he was in Afghanistan to get money.
Mhm.
He and his wife and his one child at the time, now he has two children. They were actually in India where he was going to school for him to pursue his PhD, but he needed money. So he had to go back to Afghanistan because this is something we may not understand in the United States, where you can go anywhere and just go to an ATM and pull out money. But that's not true everywhere. So for him to get his money, he couldn't just go to an ATM in India and get his money from Afghanistan. Different forms of currency, different countries, the relationships aren't always good. So he went back to Afghanistan to get money, and that's when he got caught up in everything he got caught up in.
Well, I think didn't he leave Afghanistan because one of his friends told him that he was on the hit list. That's why he went to India, right? And then he tried to and they were only allowed to take out $10,000 out of the country. But so they went to India where the cost of living was not that high, but eventually they ran out of money. He and his
Yes.
wife. Oh,
Yeah. So there was a lot going on. Yes.
mhm. And he was a hard worker at that time as well, like he is
Yes.
now. And that's what got him into trouble because he was a great part, doing a great part to modernize, help Afghanistan modernize yeah, and help Afghanis to lead a better life.
Yes.
Do you know of any instances when he was here, non-Afghanistan stories then, in which you saw something that he did that reflected what he's written about in the book?
Well, as I said, he's probably the hardest working person I know. So we started a business together after we finished the books, and we have done job fairs, we've done all kinds of things. And something he did, you said it doesn't necessarily have to be an Afghan thing, but
Mhm,
this particular example is he organized, along with some others, um, what's called an Eid Mubarak, and if I'm saying that correctly, but uh, the Muslim community has, or the Muslim faith actually, the whole Muslim faith has a month called Ramadan,
mhm,
in which they fast during the day, and they do this for a month. Well, at the end of this month, they have a big celebration, and he put together this event, this huge Eid Mubarak, where hundreds of Afghans went to celebrate this Eid Mubarak, and it was amazing. And he put this together. He got the Afghan community of the Chicagoland area together for this event. It was, and nobody had done it
mhm.
previously. So that's one example.
How
Uh,
was he able to get the funding? Because of course he had to rent the space. He was able.
oh, it was outside. It was at a park.
Oh, mhm,
So,
mhm.
but there's a strong Afghan community in the Chicagoland area, and they do have different facilities. There are some wonderful groups here, but
Mhm,
this was at a park.
mhm. And Siam was the one that brought all the different organizations and the community together for that event.
Yeah, I mean, I know that he did not work alone, but there are some really wonderful people in that community, as I've said, and so it was not a one man thing, but he definitely was very instrumental. And then, as I said, just with him and me, we've started a business just a little over a year ago, and we've had four job fairs in 8 months,
Mhm,
just the two of us, pretty much with almost no additional help. We've had a little bit of help, but for the most part, it's just been the two of us. And he's always working really hard. He has a YouTube channel. He's posting on social media all the time. He's also on a personal level, his wife and child are and children now. He has a son also now.
Mhm,
He's trying to get them here to the United States. He's also taking care of his parents and siblings in Afghanistan. So there's so much he's doing uh, for so many people.
mhm. And his wife and kids are in Europe, right? Right now?
Correct.
Hmm.
Yes, they're in Germany.
Hmm. Does he the Taliban is very repressive, and uh, they um, they tell the outside world that they'll allow more rights for women, but evidently it seems hard to believe when we see the events that transpired in the book. Does he still fear that the Taliban will somehow in some way reach him and harm him in some way while he is in the States?
He's never mentioned that,
Mhm,
but of course, as you say, the Taliban has not seemed to change a whole lot. So he's very careful about that kind of stuff, and
mhm,
even talking about it.
mhm. And also, I guess of course I ask him, but maybe you might have some inkling. When he was in Afghanistan, of course, the Taliban was tearing out anything that's modern, anything that like electricity, internet, phone, anything that could disseminate the information. But the Taliban at the same time was also keeping track of all the people that it considered its enemies. Did Siam ever tell you how they were able to do that? They were against technology, but without technology, could they have had such a far reach into people's lives?
Probably not. As you said, it's a repressive form of government. So, and they do repress information, but like any repressive form of government, they don't necessarily practice what they preach, and they'll use whatever means they can to keep their system going. And
Mhm,
this is true for all repressive forms of government.
mhm. You and Siam have been trying very hard to help people find jobs. Did I think in the book there was also a mention that even back in Afghanistan, Siam was creating holding job fairs, right?
Yes, he has done job fairs, he's done large events where thousands of people showed up. He he was amazing back there as well as here, but he had a staff, he worked with the government, he did a lot, he's done a lot of things. He's just done an amazing amount of work in a very short time. He also published books, other books in his language. He's done so many things. But yeah, he has done job fairs in the past.
Do you know that since he wrote those books before, I know that his money is all frozen up in accounts that he can't reach. But the publishers of his books, have you ever helped him, or maybe do you know if he had reached out to the publishers to send him the royalties to an account in the United States and cut off whatever account in Afghanistan that they were sending money to, royalties too,
The publishers in Afghanistan,
or they're all defunct as well. They're gone as well. Taliban got rid of them. Are they?
I don't know what the situation is with that.
Mhm, mhm. Yes. Well, did you see any of his books that he published in Afghanistan? Were they in the English language or not?
No, they were in his language.
Uh,
I've seen them, but obviously I can't read them, but they did really well.
mhm,
He wrote a book about the internet.
Mhm.
how to manage the internet. He wrote a couple of things, and I cannot remember one of the other ones, but he's written a few things.
Yes, I did read in Unbreakable that he did a lot of work trying to educate the people in Afghanistan, Kabul, to learn to use the internet.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, he did that, and he's, as I said, he's written other things. He's done an amazing amount of work. He's done more work, I think, in his lifetime than people twice his age have done in theirs. So
Hmm. Yes.
he's a great example.
Do you know if when he was in Fort McCoy, he was detained and debriefed again and again, and since he knew the language, they kept him there. Was he paid for all that work that he did for the U.S. government on behalf of
I
the?
I don't believe so. You'd
Mm,
have to ask him.
I will.
But yeah, I don't think so. But you know, Sam's one of those guys who needs to stay busy. So whether he got paid or not, I don't think was any kind of motivator for him. I think he was trying to use his time well, and he was trying to help people. And that's really, if you want to summarize Siam in just a couple of phrases, that's those are it. He
Mhm.
wants to use his time well. He wants to help people.
That's very true. But he also really needed money to support his wife and his family because even his father he lost his job in Afghanistan too. So there were a lot of people depending on him to survive.
He had a YouTube channel, and I believe he was monetizing that,
Mhm.
and that was helping him make some money.
Mhm.
But you'd have to ask him for the specifics on that.
Mhm. I certainly will. Uh, when you work with Sam, do you see any burnout since he works so hard with so many projects at the same time? Does he have burnout? And if he does, how does he deal with the burnout?
I have never seen him burned out,
Mm,
honestly. He's just he's highly he's highly motivated, and I think he has several motivations, so that always keeps him going. And he shifts activities, so he's not doing the same thing all the time.
mhm.
He's got several things he's working on.
Yes, yes. He has a lot on his plate. You said
He
that he
does.
has several motivations. Could you tell us what those motivations are?
Well, he wants to take care of his wife and children and get them here. He wants to take care of his family. He wants to be create a successful business here in Chicago and in the United States. And he wants eventually to help his country heal from the damage that's been inflicted.
Mm. Does he talk much about politics with you?
Uh, we talk about the American political system sometimes. I'm a presidential historian, so I like to talk about that stuff, but
Mhm.
uh, we mostly focus on business and trying to make our business successful.
One of the quotes that he prefaced one of his chapters was politicians lie, lie, lie. Uh, and because he was referencing how the government in Afghanistan, once the Taliban was coming in, they just, even though they got elected to the office, they did not help the people who elected them. They just took as much money as they could and used all the resources that they could to get themselves and their families and friends out of Afghanistan. So did CM mention anything about that as it relates to other politics? Is he maybe skeptical of politicians?
Well, I think with Sion, he believes, and I agree with this, that we have to, if we want to change the world, if we want to change our lives, become better people, make the world a better place, we have to do it ourselves.
Mhm.
and we have to find like-minded people who will do it with us. If any of us put too much faith, hope, confidence in anyone else, politicians, religious leaders, celebrities, if we put too much hope in them to fix our lives, then we're always going to be disappointed.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't mean those people shouldn't be held accountable for their actions. There's plenty of media and historical record about how the president and his staff fled Afghanistan during the fall of Kabul. So yeah, it's all there, and it's a matter of public record. But again, it's up to each of us to make our lives better and make our worlds better.
How are you and CM able to find like-minded individuals to help with the work? Because the two of you work a lot and you definitely need the help. How are you able to find like-minded individuals that are willing to work as hard as you do and be as diligent and detail-minded?
So far, it's just us, but we reach out to a lot of people. We call a lot of people, we email a lot of people, we meet with a lot of people, we go to events, job fairs, and we talk to a lot of people, and eventually we meet the people we need to meet. It's like anything else when you're pursuing something, whether it's if you're dating because you're looking for the right person, or if you're looking for a job and you're interviewing, sometimes you have to go through a lot. And I know that Siam and I have met or talked to or emailed or called literally thousands of individuals in the last year, thousands, not
Mhm.
hundreds, thousands of people.
Mhm.
And out of all those people, we've met some who want to work with us, who support us, who've been very kind. I'll give you an example. We've had two job fairs, and our next job fair is at Misericordia Heart of Mercy in the Rogers Park neighborhood. And they've been very kind and very helpful in helping us support our mission.
Mhm.
We have
May
friends and
30th, right?
family members.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
May 30th, right? For the job
May
fair,
30th. Yes, our
10
next job
a.m.
fair is
to
May
2 p.m.
30th. 10 to 2, that's correct, yes. And but the people at Misericordia have been amazing. They've just been wonderful. But that wouldn't have happened if we had not met people and talked to people, and then they connect us with people. And we actually got a hold of Misericordia because we spoke with people at Andre Vasquez's office. Andre Vasquez is the alderman for the 40th ward. And we met him because we called other people and we talked to other people. So it's just, you just work. We have worked really, really hard. We've talked to a lot of people. We've had some help from a few people in his family and people we've met. And then sometimes people just hear about us. A funny story. We, in our last job fair, April 4th, this young woman, she was a student. She just walked into our job fair and said, I heard about your job fair. I want to help you in any way I can. And she just showed up to help, like out of nowhere.
Mhm.
And so that happens sometimes too. But
Mhm.
we've done a lot of work.
You also mentioned, between our conversations that you had some higher refugee job fairs, and then a lot of the refugees came in, without the proper work papers. How were you able to help them in that case?
Well, in some ways we weren't,
Hmm.
honestly, with that without documentation and a working grasp of English, it's really, really hard to get them work.
Hmm.
But in another way that we did help them was in our last job fair, and this was what has made our job fairs unique. One of the things is we had a lot of social service agencies come to our job fair and have tables and direct those people to those kinds of social services they needed, whether it was legal or housing or getting help with their documentation. We've also put out messages through media such as yours and other great media, letting people know, and especially the people in Springfield, Illinois, and in Washington, D.C., hey, we really need to expedite the process for these refugees so they can get work because they want to work.
Mhm.
People don't come here because they just want to relax. People come here because they want to work. They come here for a better life. They want to get good jobs, provide for their families. And what's stopping them is a piece of paper, literally a piece of paper that says you're allowed to work. It's a crazy situation. And if they could just get that piece of paper that says they're allowed to work, they could get a job. And there's um, from Venezuela, for example, there are 37 or 38,500 Venezuelans were sent here from Texas in a 6-month period.
Mhm.
Now, if there were a way to process their paperwork very quickly, they could get jobs, boom, boom, boom. They could get rent apartments. They could buy cars, refrigerators, food. This would help the economy. So that process needs to be expedited.
So what you meant is that you're trying to contact the state and the federal government about this. So you're contacting your legislators to see if they could pass some legislation that would address this issue, right? Is that what you meant?
We have done some contacting of them, but mostly we just, as I said, we've had media, we've had CBS, we've had your station, of course, we've had public, I cannot remember the initials, but another public broadcasting station come to our events and interview us
Mhm.
and talk about these very issues. And interestingly enough, after our second Hire a Refugee job fair, within 2 weeks, there was some legislation that did get things expedited faster. Now, did we have something to do with that? Maybe we did, maybe we didn't, but it was really nice that 2 weeks afterwards, there was some movement towards that. And I get it, it's a complicated situation, uh, but there needs to be a faster process so people can get work.
Mhm. Yes, it
Because
is.
I get called all the time, like almost every day. Can you
Mhm.
help me get a job? And I ask them if they're documented, and if they're not, there's really not anything I can do.
Are you able to send them to organizations that might start helping them with the language and also with the at least the rudimentary steps what they might need to start the process of getting work permits?
Yes, we work with a lot of different organizations, social service organizations who are trying to help the refugees from
What
all over the world.
what are some of the organizations that would help them with the language barrier, and which are some of the organizations that would help them with the process of toward getting a work permit?
The work permit process is a little trickier, but I'm working with, for example, one person, Hannah Blackwell. She's an immigration lawyer, and she's working every time somebody calls me, and if I find out they're not documented, I send her information to them. And then there are there are a lot of organizations. There's Global Executive Council, who's been one of our sponsors. They've been very helpful in working with refugees. There's Refugee One. There's another one that's their name is escaping my mind at the moment, but there are many organizations in Chicago that are dedicated to helping refugees get
Mhm.
either the social services they need or at least help them. Again, there are barriers that the paperwork needs to be expedited faster. That's the biggest barrier.
Mhm. Do you know if it's not expedited because there's not the willpower to expedite, or is there not enough people hired to do all the paperwork?
I don't know what the process is for, let's say I just came here yesterday from wherever and I wanted to become a citizen. There is a process, and I know it takes a long time. There's a lot of paperwork to fill out. If you don't know the language, that makes it harder. On top of it, there is a cost for some of it to immigrants to even have that paperwork and to be able to fill it out. And if you don't have $500, which I believe is the cost to expedite some of the paperwork, well, then you can't become a citizen because you can't pay. So there's a lot. I'm not uh, qualified to speak deeply on this subject because I don't know the complete background, but it does take, it is a process. It costs money, and every case is a little different. It's a little unique. So there are all those barriers and obstacles that have to be uh, overcome.
Well, yeah, that's why we understand that. It's just that we see that the you and Siam are working so hard to help these people, and then uh, there are probably people here listening that are among that population or their friends, and we just wanted to let them know that all is not lost, that there there is still some way to to go. There is uh, there like the way CM struggled to get out of Afghanistan. There's a way if you have to just really work hard and look hard enough and be patient and uh, just hope that you're able to find the good resources. That's why I we asked you because you will be in a good position to find those to name some of those resources which you have, and we are very thankful for that. And do you um, do you envision any do you envision any improvement in the situation for the refugees because and the migrants because in when CM wrote in Unbreakable while he was at Fort McCoy, the government treated these refugees it seemed very well even though they were crowded together. They did what they could. They separated the men from the women when CM and his uh, some of his friends explained to the government, to the base, and then they were provided food, and they of course were vetted, but they on the whole they were treated very well. Uh, do you see is are you and CM and the people, the organizations that you work with, is there any change looming in the future that would improve the situation that would help these people help to be able to attain a better life sooner. Because right now, when you mentioned the $500 fee for some of these papers, that's a catch-22. If they don't have the work permit, they can't get the money. If they don't have the money, they won't get the work permit. So what do you see?
I think one good thing about the United States, there are a lot of good things about the United States, but one good thing is if enough people speak out on a particular topic, eventually people pay attention and go, okay, this is really important. The bad news about that is that often takes a long time, a lot longer than we'd like. But yes, if enough people keep saying, hey, let's expedite this process, I think eventually, yes, that will turn around, but I don't know when.
And also, those organizations that are able to help refugees, did you reach out to them or did they reach out to you to attend this last job fair so they could help the refugees and migrants that attended?
A little of both. some people have heard of us and they've called us, and then we've reached out. Siam, being a refugee, already had connections with other groups, and so we've done both. Now, before Siam and I worked together, he worked at another job and he had put together other job fairs. So he had made some connections, but it is a little of both, as I said.
The other job fairs, are you talking about the job fairs that he had when he was still in Afghanistan?
No, he had a job with another organization
Oh,
and he did some job fairs with them.
oh, in Chicago, you mean?
Yes,
Mm,
before he before we started working together.
mhm. Do you know if he got these connections with people who facilitate job fairs through his connections, past connections in Afghanistan, or he just knew the system and applied the system that he had in Afghanistan to what the system might be in the United States?
Siam just works really hard, and if he doesn't know the answer to something, he'll figure it out, and he'll just
Mm.
keep working till he figures out the answer and talks to the people he needs to talk to. He's just a very self-motivated individual.
A very unbreakable individual.
Yes.
Robert Farrell, thank you so much for joining us today on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And you also help people write resumes, and then you are a very good resource on your own. If our
Thank you.
listeners want to contact you with questions about CM or how you might be able to help them with resume and jobs, how could they contact you?
I'm going to give you my a number. You can reach me at Robert, or we can just do this, Robert at carpo.com. That's Robert, Robert, at KAARPOH.com. You can email me there. And you can also call me. I have a Google Voice number, which I can never remember. Oh, it's 872-222-1717.
Okay, Robert.
872,
Yeah, go repeat, please.
yeah, 872-222. I'm sorry, it's 872-222-7717. 872-222-7717. You can call me at that number and I'll be happy to answer any questions. But
Okay,
yes,
Rob.
we do also write resumes.
And Robert, what does carpool mean?
Karpo means expert in Pashto. There are
Mm,
two main languages in Afghanistan, Pashto and Dari.
mhm.
And Pashto is the language, and the word is expert.
Well, thank you, Robert. You are an expert as well. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us at WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM, and we will talk again soon.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.